Welcome to the Train Collegiate NCAA compliance presentation. My name is Blake McLemore, former NCAA athlete and current attorney and founder of Train Collegiate. I'm here to talk to you today about the NCAA compliant Train Collegiate app, which is a mobile app that allows NCAA athletes to earn money providing private sports lessons to youth athletes in their communities. This has already been presented to the NCAA as well as compliance offices at Division I, II, and III schools, all of which confirmed that the app does comply with NCAA rules, and we've already got student athletes on the app earning money. So stick around, super excited to show you what we've built. And at the end of this presentation, I'll show you how you get access to your free compliance portal where you'll receive documentation on all lessons given by your student athletes, and you can monitor app activity that way as well. So with that, I'll get started. Starting with the rules themselves, I'll start with Division I on this slide and move to Divisions 2 and 3 on the next. These will be the most important slides of the presentation because it's the rules themselves over here, and then on the right side, it's how the Train Collegiate app handles those rules. This right side will make a lot more sense as we get into the app later on, so please stick around for that. But for now, feel free to print this out, screenshot it, use it as a reference because it is the most important part of this presentation, and I'll jump right in. Student athletes can only be paid for work actually performed. In order to ensure this, athletes must hit the complete lesson button on the app. This tells us that they gave a lesson, and then the parent must actually confirm that the lesson took place before any payment is processed through the app. B, I call this the locality rule. Student athletes set their own hourly rate, and they are notified of this rule in big bold font when they reach that screen before they set that rate, and they're also encouraged to speak with their compliance office. This has been a very easy process thus far. Student athletes get on Google, see what people around them are charging for similar services. If they need to, they can call local facilities and they set an hourly rate accordingly. Here, we've handled this rule a number of different ways. Number one, we are not their employer. Student athletes are independent contractors. Number two, we don't pay student athletes whatsoever. It's a direct deposit from the parent to the student athlete for a lesson. And then number three, all athletes on the Train Collegiate app are and remain totally anonymous. We never use a student athlete's name, picture, appearance, publicity, reputation, fame, or personal following whatsoever to do anything associated with the Train Collegiate app. Moving down here, parts A and B, these two rules as well as all the rules in this section, athletes are notified of these rules before they can give a lesson. They must read the rules and then actually hit an accept rules button each time they go to do a lesson. Here, part C, and probably the most important part for the compliance office, we have built a compliance portal that contains lesson documentation for every lesson given by every athlete at your specific institution, and it's going to contain information on the recipient of the lesson, the fee that was paid, the time, the date, just lots of information to make sure all our bases are covered for this rule, and I'll get to that a little bit later on. Here, as mentioned before, we do not pay student athletes whatsoever. It is a direct deposit from the parent to the student athlete through Train Collegiate's secure payment gateway. So all we do is act as a conduit to make sure that that payment is processed securely. Here, again, student athletes are notified of these rules on the front end. They must read them and they must accept them before they can give a lesson. And then part F, as mentioned before, we do not and will not use a student athlete's name, picture, or appearance to do anything, promote, advertise, nothing on the Train Collegiate app. They remain totally anonymous. Jumping into the Division II and Division III rules, these rules are actually baked into the Division I rules, and we actually apply the same rules uniformly across the board for all athletes. So this will be the same information. Again, athletes must hit that complete lesson button, and parents must confirm that that lesson took place in order for the athlete to be paid. Here, athletes are notified of this rule. They're encouraged to speak to their compliance office before they set that hourly rate. And this third rule here, it doesn't apply to Division III schools, but like I said, all of the rules are applied the same for every single athlete on the app. And again, we never use a student athlete's name, picture, appearance, or reputation to promote or do anything associated with the Train Collegiate app. So, the fun stuff. A little bit about me. My name is Blake McLemore. I played baseball at the University of West Georgia, which is where the original inspiration behind the app came. I started working on the idea during my time at UGA Law and was able to use my law degree to dig into those NCAA rules. I'm a licensed attorney in the state of Georgia, and after presenting the app to the NCAA, I actually am now the full-time CEO and founder of Train Collegiate. Jumping into the app, this is what it looks like on the home screen. It's available on the App Store and Google Play. Once they're on the app, student athletes can go ahead and sign up. They will hit this whistle to start their sign up process. And then for parents and for student athletes, we start with general information to get their profile established. Here's where the actual matching process starts. Parents find student athletes based on sport and location. Here, parents enter their kids' names or their own names if they're interested in taking lessons, and this ensures that lesson payments come from the parents or the recipients themselves. Here, again, student athletes set their own hourly rate, and they're notified of that locality rule in big, bold font, and they're told to speak to their compliance department before setting that amount. Here, student athletes let people know when they're not available. So if it's classes, workouts, practices, games, they will not receive requests during those times. And here, in order to create a safe environment for everyone on the Train Collegiate app, we require all college athletes to pass a background check before they're given access to the app. So this $60 covers that background check. It gives them a year's worth of access, at which point we'll run another background check just to make sure that we're current. And all of this is done through the app, so it's super simple, super fast. For parents, this is their home screen where they can add a new lesson request. This is their menu. They'll hit this button here, add new lesson request, which will take them to a search screen. They can search by sport and location, which is where they'll find their athletes. They'll enter in who's taking the lesson, when they're available, how far they want to travel. This is their results. Like I said before, all athletes are totally anonymous on the Train Collegiate app. Parents find these athletes based on sport, location, and they can send requests to specific positions, or they can send a general request to all the athletes in their search results. This is what the student athletes who received that request will see. They can accept it, they can reject it, or they can ignore it. We don't require any sort of minimum in terms of lessons for our student athletes. It's totally at their discretion. They determine how many, when, where, all that good stuff. Here, these are the NCAA rules. These rules pop up anytime athletes hit that accept button. So in order to give a lesson, they've got to read these rules and they've got to agree to them. Once they're matched, the parent and the student athlete can chat with one another to discuss the lesson details, and it's ultimately up to the athlete to control those details and complete the lesson. And like I said before, no student athlete's name or appearance is ever used on the Train Collegiate app. Here's an example of the chat screen. The first message is from TrainCo to get the conversation going. This is where they'll discuss the details. Student athlete hits that edit lesson button, and these are all the details that they're going to enter in, and they'll hit save. Parent must confirm those details, and these are the details that will actually be on your PDF in your compliance portal as required by the NCAA. And for the student athletes, again, they'll have to hit that complete lesson button after the lesson date and time has passed, and if that lesson does take place, they'll review the details, hit complete lesson, and then in order to be paid, the parent has to confirm that that lesson took place. After the lesson's over, parents can rate their experience using our 5-star rating system. They can rebook with that same athlete. And then for athletes, we have a transaction history so that when it comes tax time, they can review all their lessons and the money that they've made. And last, most importantly, the compliance portal located at www.traincollegiate.com. In the top right corner, you'll see compliance login. We're going to give you a unique username and password. This will allow you to monitor just the athletes at your specific institution, and it'll contain all the documentation for every lesson that they give. So you can narrow what you're looking at based on a specific athlete, a specific sport, or a certain date range. Or if you just want to look at a chronological list, it's in order from newest to oldest, and you can view a downloadable PDF right here which contains all of the information that's required by the NCAA. Thank you for your time and attention for this presentation. We're trying to change the lives of the college athletes and youth athletes across the country, and it all starts with things like this. So please spread our message. Don't just train for your sport, train collegiate.